Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Economic Street podcast. I'm Alauli with your co-host, Nicholas. And today we are joined by a very special guest, somebody that's also in the personal finance space. She's a personal finance enthusiast. She is a strategy and research associate with one of the largest asset management firms in the world globally, and she can tell you more about that. And yeah, she's here to chop it up today on just what to do or the challenges that we face managing money in the digital age, the social media age. Her name is Dolly, aka Sensitive. That is her Instagram handle, Sensitive as in sense from America and Sitive at the end. So yeah, we'll drop all the links in the description. But yeah, without further ado, welcome to the show, Dolly. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks. Excited to be on the show. Thanks for having me, guys. And thanks for that introduction.
Awesome. So just for the sake of our viewers, can you just tell us a little bit more about yourself, who you are?
Yeah.
What you do?
I live and work in London. I've been in financial services now. I've been working in financial services now for the last 7 years. And currently I work in asset management. And I'm working within the research and strategy department. But I have like a varied background. I started in accounting. I'm super passionate about financial services and not financial services, about personal finance and talking to people about how they can manage their money better, particularly millennials, graduates, people that are just coming into the workspace. So that's something I'm super passionate about. And I run a platform called Sensitive, play on words, the word scent, and like Lally said, the American denomination of money, called Sensitive. And there I just share like tips and tricks on budgeting and savings and money mindset as well.
Okay, lovely. So before we get into it, just explain more sort of what you do on a day-to-day basis. What does your job actually entail because that's that is a mouthful right there, strategy and research associate. So yeah, just break that down for us.
Well, at the moment, it's a relatively new role, so it does contain a lot of things, but essentially it is looking at what products the company I work at wants to bring to market, and lots of market research, looking at what do investors want, what are people investing in at the moment, what's working well, what are competitors doing, what does the future look like? So for example, right now, like ESG is like a big issue, like social, environmental and government issues. So there's a lot of work being done around that. So it's that kind of thing. So it's in the name, lots of research, but like competitor analysis and that kind of stuff.
Nice, lovely. So moving on from that then, how did you sort of get into the personal finance space? How did you get into sort of wanting to help people with financial literacy?
So it came about really organically, which was good. I've always personally been interested in money and just always digging a bit deeper and how money works, like what are the financial products out there. So I've always personally been interested in it. But then it's when other people started telling me that, oh, that's really good advice, or that makes sense to you, like you're really good at that kind of stuff, you should start to share or talk about this a bit more. I have younger siblings and they're like, that's so useful, you could help other people, like help my friends, that kind of thing. So I think that's when I really realized that, oh, okay, I've got someone actually wants to listen to what I've got to say. And obviously now there's like a huge community and a whole world of personal finance bloggers. So yeah, I think that I would say that's how I started.
Nice.
So you kind of touched on something I was going to ask actually, is in terms of what have been your own experiences with managing money? Is it something that you've always had, or it's something you developed, but you kind of touched on that, you kind of always had an interest in it? So is it something that, say, from young that you just always had and thought, let me take it further, or where did that interest come from?
Yeah, definitely. Like, it was even before I started working, and it's mad because in the personal finance space, people talk about, what influences your attitude to money or what influences how you approach money. And I don't think I can really put it down to one thing, but I do remember when I was younger, like a vivid memory of I made like this like cash machine. I would make like fake bank and cash machines in my bedroom and make fake cards and play banks. And I just love doing that, and which is odd because a lot of children didn't do that, but I always did that. And then when I got a bit older, I just started reading more. I want to be really intentional about my finances. There's so much out there, and it was clear that it was something that it's not mainstream. Well, it's way more now with social media, but it wasn't that much like when I was coming out of uni, or if there was, I wasn't that aware of it. So I started reading, I started digging in, and I just really enjoy it.
No, I have to echo some of those comments there from my own experiences, and then also talking about coming from uni. And yeah, it's quite changed how it is now. There is quite a large presence, but there didn't seem to be much presence in terms of personal finance back in the day. And I don't know how about personal finance. What would you say? What do healthy money habits look to you? So, what would you class as having healthy money habits?
So to me, healthy, like when I think about that question, what are healthy money habits? I think anything you can do, no matter how small, that gives you a sense of control. And I know that we can't control everything, but we can control some things. So any like small habits that you can do, that you can put in place, that helps you have a clarity on your finances. Control's a big thing for me, not because you want to be controlling, but it's yours to control. So where you can, I'm a big believer that you need to control it. So and they don't have to be like these grand big things. So people that aren't really like comfortable with money or don't really like finance, they often can feel a bit apprehensive, like, oh, that's long, I don't know what to do. But honestly, I think our healthy money habits they start small. They start small, whether it's you want to make sure that you know your budget and you know your balance at the end of every week. I think mindfulness is really important as well. Mindfulness with spending and knowing what you're earning, understanding where your money is going, understanding the value of your money, understanding how far your money can go and how you can get it to work. So a big thing for me is being in the know, that clarity and gaining control. I think the habits that allow you to do that, healthy money habits.
Nice. So, I mean, going on from that, what do you think, or in what way do you think the pandemic has impacted the way you manage your finances or your money in this season?
So it definitely has impacted the way I handle my money, and obviously it was a shock to everyone. It was a shock to me, just like it was to everyone, the pandemic. And I think there were opportunities in there, and there were also like there were pros and there were also cons. But for me personally, I think it allowed me to dig a bit deeper into areas that I hadn't maybe even paying attention to. So I'm 32, and I think I definitely have a good grasp of the basics of personal finance. So I'm in a good rhythm. I would say like I'm fairly good with managing my money. But when the pandemic hit, you stop and think about some of like your aspirations and some of your financial goals and just rejig, like, does this make sense? What makes sense? What do I have an opportunity to do in this season right now? And that was a lot for me. So one thing I'll mention is that I started thinking about my pension. I have a pension. I had been paying into it, but it was really the bottom of my list. And for me, like, I don't have any dependents right now. I don't have any children. So I was like, okay, is this a season where I can kind of dedicate to that? It was just peeling back the layers on a few things. And then some of the goals I had to like rethink, rework. And with the pandemic, it was like, as soon as they said we were going to be working from home, I kind of had a rough idea. And immediately my mind was like, right, this is how much money I'm going to be saving, because I know how much money I spend on travel and I know how much money I spent on food. I was like, well, okay, like, what am I doing with all this extra money? But then I also had some like liabilities. I was like, cool, is this an opportunity to clear those, to deal with those head on? And like, I had to look at my investments as well. So it was just, for me, it was a time to like take stock and recollaborate. That makes sense. That's how it impacted me. And just like some things maybe I wasn't making the most of, or they were not really beneficial to me in terms of where I was putting my money. Could I be putting my money somewhere else? So that's how it impacted me.
That sounds good. So you really did take stock of the situation.
Okay.
Now that's cool. Your own personal situation. You don't have dependents. So I guess also it depends on your kind of personal circumstances where you're in at a time to reevaluate. But I think it was a good opportunity, whether you've got dependents or not, but just to where you are at your point of life, to just take stock and take things in, even not even just financially, but in general as well.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Absolutely. I think that we can all agree on that. The gift of time to think about everything that we were doing. Including the money. Yeah, absolutely.
Fair enough. So, I mean, based off that there, in terms of, I mean, you've taken stock. Now, the reason we've seen like this huge boom in like, I don't want to use the term finance bloggers, but people that provide good money management tips online, whether that is through blogging or social media. And there's obviously in our generation, apart from the fact that we've now are going through the second recession in 10 years as a generation, there also seems to almost be this, I don't want to say lack of understanding around money or just preparing well for life. So what do you think are the issues that kind of prevent that or hinder that social media generation from having good money habits?
Good question. I think there are levels to this. I think, and it depends on your age and the people you're speaking to. So I think on a basic level, it's like, okay, you're now earning, you've come out of university, or like maybe you're actually just in uni, and it's literally understanding like how to manage that money that comes your way. And then, because at the end of the day, not everyone's into like economics and finance and that kind of stuff. Not everyone's into it, but I personally do believe there are some basics of economics that everyone should understand. But I also understand not everyone takes to that completely. But there are like recession, GDP, like what's the economy, that kind of stuff is important. But I think the great thing about the internet space and the social media space is that you can deal with the surface level stuff quite easily. Like sometimes for me on my page, I want to talk about certain things, and I know that just my Instagram at the moment is not going to do it justice. And obviously there's loads of things you can do behind, like, you can take your information elsewhere, you can present it in another way, platforms like this where you can talk a bit deeper on things. But I do think the space is good for that, because there are people that need that. They're not coming from a financial background, but they are just trying to do better. So I think it's a step in the right direction for them. But I think as a whole, I like to think people are more thirsty for knowledge now. I genuinely like to think, but also think it's a mixed bag, right? I also think there's a part of that generation that how do I put this? I think there's a part of the generation that are not facing the truth and want to like live life another way. And yeah, exactly. And not concerning themselves with, not educating themselves about the things that they should educate themselves with. But I like to think there's a mixed bag. I like to think there are really like a lot of the like, young people in uni, coming out of uni, that are intentionally trying to be serious about this, reading, learning more, getting involved, engaging with people in that space on social media. To answer your question.
No, it does. And I think I can definitely echo those sentiments. I do think there are some people that are, I guess, what helps is that once reality of life sets in, it forces you to step up. You can't keep doing what you were doing if you not have a kid, or you can't keep doing what you were doing if you're now trying to get a house or getting a property ladder, and they're turning you down because of something that you've done financially in the past. That now makes you kind of have to look in the mirror and say, okay, I need to make some changes. How do I go about making those changes, and where can I start? And that's, I think, what the beauty about social media is, because it can quickly connect you to a whole raft of information from across the world, right right at your fingertips. So I think, yeah, definitely you sort of hit the nail on the head. So yeah.
Just to add on, to that, so hey, you kind of touched it at the beginning in terms of how it's changed from when we kind of left university to how it is now with the social media generation. So with that, is there an opportunity for, you say, your Instagrammers, your people on TikTok to better understand their finance through social media and technology compared to when we, let's say, were coming out of university, or say 10, 12 years ago, for example?
I would say, yeah, for sure, Nick. Like right now, one of the biggest things on the internet, and I don't know if it's because the pandemic's brought it to light, but it's courses, is people are like informal education, right? Informal education, what you guys
Definitely.
have, like a YouTube channel, and more structured informal education as well. So it's like, I know a bit about this, here's my YouTube channel, or I know a bit about this, I'm gonna do a very basic course. And you would be surprised, I think, because we're on one side of the fence, but a lot of people are coming from different places. And I think that was a thing for me. You just assume that people know what you know, or there's just an assumption that, you know, people understand what you understand. And I probably think more people understand now because of social media than maybe our generation. Like, it wasn't openly spoken about unless you were like in particular groups where you did speak about finances. But I like to think a lot more people are openly speaking about it. So yeah, I definitely think that this social media generation influences all that stuff. I think there's learning to be done. People can definitely learn from that space.
No, definitely. No, I'd have to echo that. It's a very changed dynamics in terms of social media. Saying it has its positives and negatives, but on this front, it would definitely say it's more positive than negative in terms of what's out there and getting people to be more informative and make better choices. And then on that, as I was recently, I was eavesdropping, if I was being honest. I was eavesdropping on my wife's podcast. And she was listening to a podcast, and there was a woman that was speaking, and she was saying that she left her bank because it kept giving her a breakdown of her spending habits, and she didn't like that. So she was like, she would prefer to have spent blindly. She didn't like. So I know with a lot of these new challenger banks, like your Monzos and your Sterling banks, they're giving you your breakdowns. But now even your big banks such as Barclays, on their apps now, they're giving you proper breakdowns of what you're spending and where you're spending. And listening to the lady on the podcast, she was like, she doesn't like any of that, and she actually left her bank because of the breakdowns. It felt like it was, what was the word she used? I think it was element of, it felt like it had control over her.
Big brother.
And I found, yeah, and I found that so, for me, because I'm like you, I'm quite meticulous and know what I'm spending, where I was. So for me, those stuff's been quite positive, and it really like baffled me that some people, but it's true, but some people would see that as a negative and kind of would want to spend blindly, and just, if I'm in my overdraft, it doesn't matter as long as when I get to the till and the card goes through, it's all good. What would you say or advise for someone to kind of overcome those feelings of feeling pressured or feeling watched?
That's so mad to me. That's like so mad to me, that story. Like, so I bank with NatWest, and like you said, like NatWest, Barclays, like all these big banks are moving, following the challenger banks. So like Monzo, the Clios, like, and I'm like, yeah, about time. I like it. I like the breakdown. They've even got like this new credit score function now.
Yep.
And
yeah.
as
well. Yeah.
My sister was like, oh, what's this? Like, what does it mean? Do you know what I mean? Because it's there. She banks with NatWest as well, and it's on her app. So I love the fact that they're moving that way, and I think it's important. And also, I'll answer your question probably, Nick, in a second, but also the fact that, like, you know, the first recession, it was like mistrust of the banks, and, you know, the banks with their small print are not, you know, on your side. And now the bank is trying to take, obviously they have their own agenda all the time, but they're trying to take another position where we're here to help you, you know, stay in control, stay on the right side. Are you having trouble, you know, managing your money? So that transparency, it's, you know, it's for our benefit. But to the lady on the podcast, I think I would I would, and this is where like mindfulness comes in. I would ask her like, why does she associate those negative feelings with the information she's been given? What is she afraid of? Because it's just information at the end of the day. It's your information. But she also sounds like she hasn't got any problems, because she doesn't care, and her overdraft must be pretty extensive. If she's happy to like just, you can just go, and she never needs to check anything, that's also something else. But there's like quite a few questions to ask there, like, why do you have an over? How does your overdraft support you? Did you know why you got it? How much is it? Is that for emergencies, or you genuinely need that much extra money for your basics? Then it's like a whole conversation around, some people like have really are really emotional about money, or spending makes them feel a certain kind of way, and then dealing with the reality doesn't. So it sounds a lot more like a mental, emotional thing, because it's just, for whatever reason, she doesn't like the transparency. For whatever reason, she doesn't like the clarity. She doesn't like the openness, which is weird. Because if we weren't talking about money and anyone said any of these adjectives like transparency, openness, clarity, those are kind of good things, right?
Mhm.
So
Indeed.
they're kind of a good, that it's the kind of thing you want from a relationship. So a relationship with your bank. So I would try to get down to the root of it. It sounds like there's something deeper or something underneath that she's just not feeling. Maybe she just likes maybe she just likes that YOLO life. But
I was gonna
yeah, I
say,
think
some people are like that still. Like they just, oh, yeah, life hasn't happened, or it hasn't happened enough, or maybe it has, and you
yeah.
just think, oh, screw it, it's too late for me. Because
But
some people are.
but you can still be YOLO and have information.
True.
As I said, it's a
Like,
shock to me. So I don't say that I'm kind of
did
got
you
a
hear the
similar
end of
mindset to
it?
them. No,
Did you hear
no,
the
I
end of
didn't. I was
it?
just slapped to my wife what she listening to. No, yeah, it was, and especially even with overdrafts, and just a quick that, especially now with the way overdraft rates have changed, they're so much more expensive now. So it's just like, so that's just a side ticket to myself. But yeah, it's just a thought a bit I'll bring to your attention and see how, because yeah, for me, I I was shocked by it myself. I was just like, as you said, the attributes you'd usually want of, as you said, transparency, etc. It's giving you, and that's something that you can actually use as a positive. But she saw it as a negative, in a negative terms, which was quite surprising.
Absolutely. And there was a young girl I spoke to, and she just like, she hates checking her balance. It fills her with anxiety. Some
Yeah,
people are like that, like they don't want to know. They'll rather not know. And I get that, but it's the unlearning, right? It's the unlearning. It's like, this is yours to control, and what's the worst that can happen? Even if you look at something and it's not what you want to see, at least you know, and then you know what steps to take. And I think we all handle like anxiety and emotions and like our mindfulness differently. So some people, no matter what it is, different things, you just need to talk them through it and help someone's perspective, because that's what I think.
no, I echo that.
Fair enough. Moving on from that, I guess to kind of finish up with, what if you could tell our viewers anything, give them top tips, what would your top, I don't know, like 5 money tips be for managing finances well, looking into 2021?
Right, I was prepared for this question. So, um, 5 tips for managing your money better, like 2021. Super basic, but get a budget. And I know some people don't like that word. And if you're one of those people, you're listening, a budget doesn't really sit well with you. Ignore that, and then just get a clear grip on the money, understanding where the money you make goes. Like, know what you make and know what you're spending. Just get that clarity. If you want to call it a budget, call it a budget. If you don't, call it getting clarity on your finances. Like, your starting point, you need to know where you're starting. I always say you can't control what you don't know. So for the example, that Nick shared about the lady in the podcast, if she was listening, she would have to go back to step one and create that budget, and she would have to just face, what do they say? Face the music. Yeah. So I think clarity is really important. That's step one. And then step number two is don't overthink it. Like, you're not going to have all the answers immediately, but you do start by starting. And like, even me, like, I'm always still learning about, there's always like levels to these things. So like areas of finance that personal finance that I want to get deeper into, I still apply myself, and I still learn. And I understand that's a journey, so don't overthink it. So it goes back again to the anxious person and the person that hasn't always been comfortable with money. Create a budget, but don't overthink it. Don't like then start thinking too far ahead. Just take it one step at a time. The third thing I would say is automation is key. So just some context for what I mean by it. I know you guys know, but anyone listening, automation. So if you make a decision that you want to save X amount, or you want to pay back X amount of your debt each month, or you want to invest this amount, or you want to do you want to make the same decision consistently over the next year to reach X goal. Automate that decision, set up a standing order, set up a direct debit, make sure you don't have, it's not just left to you to think about it each time, because otherwise you won't do it. I think automation works really well when it comes to paying for things and paying for things. And then number 4, I would say be realistic about where you're at. And that kind of ties in with number 1. If you have clarity, if you have a budget, then you're gonna know pretty well like where you're at. So be realistic about where you're at right now. But I'm not saying be realistic about your aspirations, because I think people should be like dream really big and aspire really big, but be realistic about where you're starting. If that's fuzzy, it's gonna be wrong. And then finally, I put here, stay educated. Maybe some people do finish learning about personal finance, but I haven't. And if you're listening to this, probably you haven't finished learning either. So keep learning, keep reading, keep tapping into podcasts. Follow me on Instagram if you want. And just keep educating yourself. Financial literacy is your own responsibility. So it's only for your good.
Awesome. So that is get clarity or make a budget. Don't overthink it. Automate where you can. So things like direct debits and stuff like that automatically. Be realistic with where you currently are, but you can still dream big. And then just keep learning, keep growing, and look for communities to plug yourself into, like Sensitive. Make sure you check out her channel. Make sure you check out her page on Instagram. It's in the description. And yeah, we're all here to help you guys meet your financial needs and aims and goals. So yeah, that's why we're here and that's what we do. But on that note, I just want to say thank you for coming on. It's been really nice chatting to you, actually. And yeah, just chopping it up. It's always amazing what you can learn and pick up from other people in the community as well, because that's what it's about. It's about crowd learning at the moment. So absolutely, it's been a pleasure. And hopefully we can get you on the show again in the future. But in the meantime, guys, keep it locked on the Economic Street platform. We're on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all of it. Look out for more information coming from us. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Like, share, subscribe. And if you have anything that you would like to see us talk about, please let us know. Slide in the DMs. We're always willing to respond. And until next time, stay locked in and keep safe. Bye for now.